You know, I've been making banana bread for years now, and I have to say, this has become my go-to banana bread recipe. It is so easy to make. And in addition to showing you this recipe, I'm going to give you the one-to-one substitutions if you want to make this gluten-free, if you want to make it vegan, or if you want to make it gluten-free and vegan. And we're going to look at those results side by side. So let's start with the first ingredient, the bananas. Now, you'll see in the original recipe, I give you a bit of wiggle room by volume and by weight when it comes to the bananas. Because if you say, oh, 3 bananas, well, is it a banana this size or a banana this size? And I don't want to send you running to the store or not making this recipe because you are simply short on a 1/4 cup or 50 grams of banana. So you do have a little wiggle room. What does count is that your bananas are definitely very ripe. In fact, I'll be honest, the fact that I can see so much yellow, I'd rather these bananas a little bit riper, but I was losing patience with the bananas and I wanted to make this video for you. So off we go. Let's see. So between 375 and 400 grams is ideal. A little bit over and under is not going to make the biggest difference. There, that's good. Whether you use a fork or I've got a potato masher, you just want to mash up the bananas by hand. I don't bother with a food processor or blender. It's just one more dish you have to clean afterwards. And you don't actually want to puree the banana. But I mash until, see right now, the bananas are kind of a bit of a dull color. They can still be rough, but as you're mashing it, they'll become a little glossier, and that's when you know you've mashed them enough. If you're a banana bread veteran, you probably have already figured that out. There we go. See how the bananas have gotten soft and kind of glossy? Now I'm ready to whisk in the next ingredients. My 2 sugars, and when I talk about the vegan recipe, I'll discuss sugar when we look at the baked vegan loaf. But I've got a mix of light brown sugar and granulated sugar here. I like to whisk in the sugars first into the banana. Gives the sugars a little chance to dissolve, but also if you've melted your butter stovetop or in the microwave, it gives your butter a minute or 2 to cool down, but you can add it to your mixture still warm. Now it's time for the 2 eggs. And unlike a cake batter, where you want to add your eggs one at a time, with banana bread, you can just add them all at once. That goes for most quick bread recipes, like banana bread or simple muffins. A little vanilla goes in. Okay, and I'll set this aside for a second because it's time to combine the dry ingredients, which are relatively simple. And this is why adapting this recipe to gluten-free or vegan is easier to do, because it's a straight ahead recipe and it makes the substitutions also straight ahead. I have regular all-purpose flour here, a little baking soda, a little bit of salt, and I'm just giving this a stir with a fork. Because banana bread's supposed to be one of those afterthought recipes. You realize, oh, I have ripe bananas on the counter. I better make banana bread. I'm not looking to beleaguer this recipe, so if you want to sift, you can, but stirring together is absolutely fine. So in go the dry ingredients, and because it remains a fluid batter, you can stick to whisking here. I haven't found there's a real advantage to pulling out the electric beaters. You don't get bigger volume to your banana bread. The consistency or texture doesn't really change. So whisking by hand is easy enough to do. you go. Once you no longer see any visible flour, you are all set. I wanted to keep this version simple for that gluten-free vegan original recipe comparison, but if you wanted to stir in chocolate chips or walnuts, whatever you want, this is when you would add it, and about a cup. The weight will vary depending on what you're adding, but a cup by volume is what you're looking to add. I've got my 9 by 5 inch pan greased. I lined the bottom with parchment. I don't worry about lining the sides. You're lifting it out about 15-20 minutes after you pull it out of the oven, and so I find it comes out easily without issue. In goes the batter. And honestly, I feel like this is one of the fastest recipes I've made for you here on Oh Yum. So I'm ready to pop this in the oven. So while whipping up the recipe is easy, baking takes a little patience. I've preheated my oven to 350, and you have to give it 75 minutes to bake. You check the doneness like you do any cake. Insert a skewer in the center when it comes out clean of crumbs. You're all good. So let me pop this in the oven, and I've already baked my other variations, so stay with me because the big reveal is about to happen. I'm surrounded by banana bread. So now let's look at 4 versions of baked banana bread. This is the exact same recipe with 1-to-1 substitutions. Original, gluten-free, vegan, and gluten-free and vegan. So first, this is the original recipe. Oh, it's still warm. That I just prepared. So you can see we've got a nice even top, some small cracks on the surface. And when you compare the tops of each of the banana breads, it helps see the difference and build expectation as to what's inside. There we go. A textbook banana bread appearance. I always cut a second slice. I don't mind the end piece when it comes to banana bread, but look at that gorgeous interior. I'll do the tasting later when I have them all side by side. So let's put this to the side, and I even made myself tags, not just for your benefit, but so I don't mix up my own banana breads here. Now, let's take a look at the gluten-free one. So here we go. We still have that beautiful, deep banana bread color. The top looks a bit different. It's darker on the outside, lighter in the center, and it doesn't have quite the crackle. So to let you know what I did, and just to recap, all of my exact substitutions are listed below. So you'll see the original recipe, then the gluten-free vegan and gluten-free vegan options. Very clear, so you can easily pick which option you want. So the substitution to make this gluten-free was a 1-to-1 by volume and by weight using my favorite pre-mixed baking blend. So this includes, and I list the ingredients below, sweet rice flour, brown rice flour, it's got some sorghum flour in it, tapioca flour, little xanthan. What's great with these pre-mixes, if you find one that you really enjoy and you get good results from, you stick with it, and they are typically designed to be the same weight by volume as flour, which makes the substitution that much easier. If you're making your own gluten-free blend, what you want to do for this recipe is use 1 cup of brown rice flour, half a cup of tapioca starch, and half a teaspoon of xanthan gum. Again, those directions are right below. So I just want to show you what it looks like because gluten-free flour looks just like all-purpose flour. It will have a slightly grittier texture to it, but now let's see what it looks like when we slice into it. Beautifully moist. We've got that textbook banana bread flavor. I do see a bit of weightiness at the bottom, a little bit of heaviness, and I think that's just the nature of using that 1-to-1 substitution. A very important note. When I was baking this recipe using the gluten-free flour, I had to add 10 minutes to the bake time. Those instructions are also below, so you don't miss out. So there's our slice, our loaf, and let me set this aside. This will be fun to look at them side by side in just a few minutes. Now, moving on to the vegan option. So first looks, we've got a nice shiny top to the loaf, a nice little crack down the middle, which I am not opposed to. That's just the nature of when you make quick breads like this. So let's talk about the substitutions I made. I made 3 of them. So before I even slice into it, let's talk about those substitutions. In the order that they appear in the recipe, the first thing I did was replace the butter with a neutral oil. And I have found banana breads, you can switch between the oil and the butter, whatever is convenient. Olive oil can be a bit strong. I leave the choice of oil up to you, but it was a 1-to-1 substitution. It also saved a step. Now for the sugar, instead of using the granulated and light brown sugar, I am using organic coconut sugar, which personally I love. It's got a drier consistency. This is why I wanted to show it to you. So you will find when you're measuring it, while the measurement of the 2 sugars by weight comes up to 280 grams, when you actually weigh your organic coconut sugar, it's 240 grams. So the weight's a little different compared to the volume. Using that much coconut sugar, I figured I would have a darker colored loaf cake. So we'll see when we slice into it. Now, for the egg replacement, for a quick bread like this, muffins, somewhere where you're not going to see the specks, a flax egg is simple, it's easy, it adds extra fiber to your recipe. And what you do is you take 1 tablespoon of ground flaxseed, you add 3 tablespoons of tepid water, so that replaces the volume of a single egg. You give it a little stir. So prepare this first before you start making your recipe, because you want to let it sit. If your water's warmer, it takes about 5 minutes. If it's more tepid, it takes 10 to 15 minutes. And then look at that difference, just mixed. And then after sitting a little bit, that's the power of fiber absorbing liquid. And that's what lends and replaces the function of the egg, giving your baked goods a bit of structure. What do you say? Shall we slice into the vegan banana bread? Nice color. Again, I've got that heavy line at the bottom. So that tells me, because without the egg, that I'm probably not getting enough structure and volume as the recipe bakes. But the whole point of this exercise was to do a flat 1-to-1 substitution to compare the results. All right, it's interesting to me that you see that moisture line more than you do in the gluten-free version. I have to say though, it smells really, really good. Okay, let's get our vegan tag out so I don't mistake it. And now for the last one, the combination of vegan and gluten-free. Which it surprised me how different the top looked. It doesn't really look like a hybrid of, I wouldn't have guessed that was a mix of the vegan and the gluten-free. You've got a different cracking on the surface, a nice shine to it. And what I simply did with this recipe is take my vegan applications, my gluten-free applications, put the 2 together, including adding the extra 10 minutes of bake time to this recipe. So let's take a look. Yep, I'm developing, this is becoming a bit of a pattern, which my recipe testing mind says, okay, what do we do to adjust this and fix it? And I'm thinking we lower the banana proportion slightly in order to get rid of that moisture line. But as I said, this exercise is a 1-to-1 substitution test, which Not bad, because I would say we have successes here, but now we can look at why and improve upon it. So let me set these up so we can see them all side by side. All right. So side by side, let's do a little recap. This is the original recipe. My go-to banana bread that uses melted butter, 2 eggs, and wheat flour. And now the exact same recipe using gluten-free flour and adding 10 minutes to the bake time. And here is the same recipe, but using neutral oil in place of butter, flax eggs instead of hen eggs, and using organic coconut sugar. And lastly, combining the gluten-free and the vegan substitutions, my gluten-free and vegan banana bread. I'm going to give these a rating based on appearance, on texture, and on flavor. Here we go. Let's start with the original, which I do know so well. And believe me, I won't add bonus points simply because this one is still warm from the oven. I can't weigh into it. Balanced sweetness, good flavor. I don't taste the baking soda, so it's the right proportion. I mean, technically, this is my go-to banana bread recipe. I should be giving it 10 out of 10, but that doesn't really seem fair because there's always room for improvement. So I'm going to give this 8.5 out of 10, just simply because I can never stop playing with recipes. And also it doesn't have chocolate chips in it. Okay, now the gluten-free. It's got a nice texture to it, a good crumb structure. It doesn't feel too heavy, nor does it feel dense. I like the appearance of it. Big banana flavor comes through. I get no grittiness from the flour. So all that moisture from the banana absorbed the gluten-free flour, expanded those rice granules. So it's really a nice texture. Full points there. And then this surface has a bit of a crust to it. I would say, had I not made this myself and known I used a gluten-free blend, I would not know this is a gluten-free banana bread. I am going to give it 8.25 out of 10. It is really, really good. Okay. Vegan. Quite a few substitutions in there. I can see I've got a nice, delicate crumb structure. I can see little air holes. We did discuss that little moisture line at the bottom. It tears apart nicely. It's not crumbly. It's holding together. The flax did its work. I love the appearance of the shine on the top of it. Wow. That has a lighter texture than the original banana bread. That is so surprising. I would not have guessed that by its appearance. Wonderfully moist, balanced banana flavor. That's to be expected because the proportions don't change. The only taste difference, because I know the taste of butter, I can tell there is no butter in this recipe, but that is not a detriment. That is merely just a change in the recipe. I might add maybe a 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon to kind of balance and give a little more depth of flavor to this recipe. Wow. I'm going to get completely different. I'm going to give that a time mark with the gluten-free. I'm going to give that 8.25. Okay, so now for the final one, the gluten-free and vegan, putting these two together. Now, the substitutions separately work well. Let's see, how do they work when they're combined? Now, I can already tell, picking up this gluten-free vegan bread, it feels a bit heavier. I gave it the extra 10 minutes in the oven. We've already talked about this moisture line at the bottom. It doesn't pull apart the same way. The crumb structure is a little more dense. It feels a bit heavier by weight. good banana flavor. The texture needs some work. Between the substitution with the flax egg and the gluten-free flour, I find this a bit heavy and dense. While the flavor's good, it's a bit too wet for my liking. So I'm going to have to, and I can still taste the bit of grittiness from the gluten-free flour. So I'm going to have to take points off on texture and on taste and give this a 6.5. It's still good. I would still serve this and be content with it, but in my mind, this needs a little more recipe tweaking to make it actually comparable to the original. I want you to know that you can make any of these and feel happy about what you've created. Banana bread, we all love it. It's the ultimate comfort bake. So I hope you'll give one of these versions a try. If you like this concept of a bake and my sharing the side by side, let's do it again. Let me know in the comments. Of course, I'm gonna say subscribe, and I'll see you again for another delicious recipe. Thanks for joining me.